Senator Hirono, did you say that we spend $20 billion a year on corrosion?
Yes.
That gives new
That is
meaning to
why
the
I've
old
been so
rock song,
focused on
Rust
rust.
Never Sleeps, doesn't it? It's
right.
unbelievable. Undersecretary of Defense for Acquisition and Sustainment, Ellen Lord, has said that the sustainment cost for the F-35 will become unaffordable. I had a meeting recently with the Deputy Secretary of Defense. He said the same thing. Why is the F-35 so expensive to keep flying? Anybody want to tackle that, Admiral?
I'll start. From a warfighting perspective, we need the airplane.
No doubt about that. I'm just
from an
asking about why does it
affordability-
cost so much to keep it going?
From an affordability aspect, we have to drive down the operating and sustainment costs. There's a 30% reduction goal within 10 years.
I understand that
Yes,
too.
sir.
My question is, why is it so expensive? What is it about the airplane that's costing so much?
I think the fifth generation airplane in and of itself is an expensive airplane to procure.
I know that.
And then
I'm
to
gonna ask-
operate-
I'm going to ask again. This is
Yes,
the
sir.
fourth time. Why is the F-35 so expensive to maintain?
Sir, I think I
Go
can
ahead,
help
sir.
a little bit here. So the aircraft is very expensive, period. So a lot of the parts on that aircraft are very expensive. So if a component fails, the repair costs at this time are quite high. We're still having to go back to the original equipment manufacturers for the repair of most of those components because the program collectively, not pointing for the collective, was late to stand up things like organic depot level repair capability. We're just now starting to stand up intermediate level capability, or actually just starting to fund it in PB19. That's one of the new things in 19. The reliability of some of the components is not as high as we expected it to be at this point in time. So we have more failures.
Is the manufacturer responsible for those failures? What do we get for a warranty on it?
There's no warranty, sir.
There is no warranty?
No, sir.
You mean a product can be delivered to us that costs $100 million and if it fails, it's on us?
There are some criteria in the contract, sir, but there is actually congressional language that dates back many, many years about the government paying industry for warranties. We actually have to get special permission to pay industry for warranties on things we buy.
Well, we'll talk about that, I guess. I'm astounded. Well, I hope that as the program...
the aircraft would have cost even more had we insisted on a warranty.
Sir. Yeah, there's very few exceptions. I'll give you an example of an exception. H-60s we were able to buy with a warranty because that was a standard that Sikorsky used at the time for their commercial practices, and they just rolled it over to the government. But in the vast majority of cases, that is not true.
Well, perhaps we could have some discussion of this. I can argue it both ways, but the idea of buying something like this and having parts fail and having nobody, the manufacturer, the OEM, not responsible strikes me as an odd way to procure most anything. Let me ask a different question.
Admiral, that goes back to what year?
I'd have to. It's a long time, sir. I'd have to go back and look.
Before I was here.
Even before Senator King. Well, if you would, supply that
Yes, sir.
to us, because there's some interest in the room, obviously, there.
Okay.
But I would be interested in the overall question of the sustainment costs and why they are so high, because, as I say, Ellen Lord said they are unaffordable. That's a finite unaffordable means we ain't going to be able to do it, and we've got to figure that out. Quickly, in the Air Force, we've had a lot of work on the pilot shortage. Is there a pilot shortage in the Navy and the Marines as well? We're talking about acquiring aircraft here. Do we have the pilots to fly them? General Ritter?
We are a couple of percentages below where we should be. So we're not in as dire of a pilot shortage as what I think we were seeing on the Air Force front. But it is to no secret that the airlines are hiring, and we're working our pilots hard. So we're working on a few different fronts. I'll give you some examples. The Marine Corps and the Navy, along with our Air Force, we started up pilot bonuses. Again, we hadn't done this since 2011. And we were probably at the low end of that. We were 2 years with 2 years bonus, $20,000 per year for TAC Air, Aviate-B, F-18, F-35, and V-22 too, because we're worried about our tilt rotor, because they are a high-value item out in the market as well. So far, we've had 68% take on that. So 33 out of our 35 F-35 pilots took the bonus, 123 out of 169 V-22s took the bonus. So with that, we're still watching it closely. And I tell you, we watch it every day. On a normal 10-year program of pilot retention, attrition rates probably around 8.9%. We're probably at about 10.5% TAC Air wide. So what it means is we're putting as many folks as we can in our squadrons, and maybe some of the B billets for fighter pilots maybe aren't filled in some cases, and we keep people in the squadrons longer. But we are looking at throughput to make sure we keep up the pilot rate, because for us and as a Navy, we both are in this thing together with transitioning to the F-35. We have to be able to stand down F-18 squadrons to stand up the F-35 squadron. So we got to make sure we're transitioning those people to those squadrons while we're still maintaining our legacy fleet as well.
Admiral Khan, I'm over my time, but how's the Navy doing on pilot retention?
For our department heads and post-command commanders, we're not meeting our goals. The bonuses may provide some opportunities to address some of those. My focus and my position is on readiness, to get the aircraft up and get those pilots flying, to make sure that lack of flight time is not a distractor.
I would commend to both of you. Senator Cotton and I on the Airland Subcommittee had an informal roundtable with a group of Air Force pilots to talk about this issue without a lot of officers and press or anybody. And it was very interesting because what we heard was that it wasn't necessarily about money. It was more about op-tempo, time with family, and interestingly, time to fly. That the pilots didn't want to be in desks and on different tracks. So the Air Force is doing some serious work on this. I would urge you to talk to them about it, because they're sort of I was about to say they're at the front edge of this. That's not a good place to be, but they're working on it. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.